Hi everyone, today we are going to talk about the Peasants' Revolt. Today we will explore one of the most significant uprisings in medieval England, the Peasants' Revolt of 1381. This was a pivotal moment when ordinary people rose up against oppressive feudal conditions. The revolt occurred during the reign of King Richard II and was led by figures like Wat Tyler. The rebels demanded an end to serfdom, fairer wages, and relief from heavy taxes. Though it was eventually suppressed, this event left a lasting mark on English society up until now, including its language, which we will focus on later. Let's moving on to historical background and causes. The revolt didn't happen in isolation. Peasants faced severe social injustice, economic hardships, and political tensions. Heavy taxes, strict feudal laws, and poor living conditions pushed them to the limits, which made these struggles were often expressed in their native language, which is English, not the French or Latin, which only used by the elite. What I meant was elite. What I meant elite is the higher authority, the royalties, the noble people. The linguistic divide mirrored the social divide, setting the stage for English to become a language of resistance. Now, let's meet the leaders, key figures, and the leaders. For Wat Tyler, he was a blacksmith from a country in England, or we call it Kent. Uh, It is likely meant that he worked with metals, particularly ions, to build various tools. That was the blacksmith meant. He produced for agriculture and warfare. He has a strong charismatic leadership character. During the revolt, Tyler was involved in negotiations with King Richard II and other government officials. However, tensions escalated during these negotiations, and Tyler was ultimately killed during a confrontation with authorities in London on June 15, 1381. His death marked a significant moment in the revolt and ultimately contributed to its suppression by the government forces. According to some reports, during negotiations between the rebels and King Richard II at Smithfield in London, Wat Tyler was involved in a heated exchange with the Lord Mayor of London, William Walworth. In the midst of altercation, Walworth struck Wat Tyler with his weapon, mortally wounding him. Another account suggests that Tyler was actually killed by one of the king's retainers. Wat Tyler's leadership and sacrifice made him an iconic figure in English history, symbolizing the struggle of the common people against oppression and injustice. He is also remembered as a hero of the Peasants' Revolt and continues to be celebrated in popular culture and historical accounts of the rebellion. Next, let's see for the John Ball. He was a preacher or priest who is one of the rebels' leader. He influenced people to join the revolt as he is very brave and knowledgeable to speak up about the hierarchy special treatment. He also always used the biblical figure slogan when Adam delved and Eve span. Who was the gentleman? They represent the origin of humanity to say that we are all the same. There should be no social classes. And for Jack Straw, he is believed to have been a commoner and is often portrayed as a mysterious figure with a little known with little known about his background or identity. But during the revolt, Jack Straw was known for his involvement in organizing and leading the rebel forces. He played a significant role in rallying the peasants and urban workers against the oppressive feudal system and demanding social and economic reforms. But the exact role and contribution was not well documented. Also, as I've done the research, others also suggested that that his role may have been exaggerated or mythologized due over time. And lastly, for Richard II, he was a young monarch who rules England during the Peasants' Revolt at the age of only 10 years old. He is the one who issued a pardon letter following the Peasants' Revolt of 1381, was likely influenced by his advisors and counselors, as well as the political circumstances of that time. After his revolt was suppressed, there was likely pressure on the king to demonstrate leniency and restore order in the realm. So the decision to issue a pardon letter would have been made by King Richard II himself, based on the advice and counsel he received from his advisors, as well as his own assessment of the situation and the interests of the crown. Um, Next, let's move on to next slide. The event and the timeline. The event of the revolt unfolded rapidly after local rebellions in Essex and Kent. Rebels freed prisoners and chose Wat Tyler as their leader. By June 1381, they entered London where their demands were voiced in English, and this was significant because official documents were usually in French or Latin, but it was that during that time was in English. The rebels' uses of English mark it as a language of the people and change. And next is the goals and demands. The rebels demand freedom from serfdom, fair taxes, land rights were actually radical for that time. But most importantly, these ideas spread through English, not the elite's languages. And this actually helped unify people across regions and laid the groundwork for English to become a language of protest and reform. Roles it still sorry, the role still plays up until today. For suppression and aftermath. For suppression and aftermath, after the revolt was crushed, authorities retailed, retaliated harshly, but the ideas couldn't be silenced, partly because they were expressed in the people's language, and the revolt's legacy live on in English ballads, stories, and later movements, showing how language preserves and spreads dissent. Next is the impact of the revolt. The impact of the revolt beyond immediate effects. The revolt influenced culture and politics. About 20,000 peasants participated, and their use of English in protests helped it gain status. Over time, English became a tool for discussing social issues, a trend that continues in literature and media today. And for the on how the peasants revolt contributed the rise of English language is lasting impact. Why? How is rebel use English to voice grievances, making it a language of resistance. They're making English as the national identity by rejecting French, which is the elite language, and strengthened English as a symbol of unity. And for post revolt, more works appeared in English. For example, Geoffrey Chaucer's book during the revolt. He actually released the Canterbury Tales, and the legal changes was when King Richard II pardon letter were issued in English, signaling its acceptance in official context. And lastly, the historical significance. The revolt actually showed how language and power in intersect English. One seen as crude become a vehicle for justice and change. Also, it shaping it rose in modern times. And to conclude, um, today English is a global language, but it is roots in movement like the Peasants' Revolt remind us that it was once the voice of the marginalized, from protest signs to social media. English continues to be a tool for language authority, just as it was in 1381. And how do you see language empowering movements today? So that is all from me. Thank you so much for your time, and bye bye.